when we first launched, we launched 190 countries in like one single day, and we were very much focused on programming for global. And it was the same thing with our local content strategy. We did believe that there are so many innovative stories coming out of Asia, so that was a fact. But we were trying to program Asian stories for global, targeting the global market and the global audience. And in that process, what we really learned is the importance of local content on really growing Asia. And also, the more authentic stories are the ones that actually travels a lot better compared to when we're trying to target the global audience.
But we have really focused on local content in Japan and India in a very, very deep way.
Right.
And to the point Min was earlier making about local stories, I think we've also learned that fundamentally going super local and actually in locales like India, going linguistically across the board really makes the big difference. So once you connect with the audiences in that particular way, you have to have the core local product to be able to then drive distribution on top of it. So once you really have the connective tissue with the audience, with local content, originals licensed, and you back that with distribution and the right product market fit with pricing and tiers and so on, you're able to leverage that.
When you think about Disney Plus, it's all about, the big IP, the franchise that we built, for the past, few decades, as well as the ecosystem, right? When you think about the ecosystem of Disney, it's pretty large, and we have like multiple touch points, with like theme parks and cruise line and sport and Hulu and so on. And even more importantly, the fandom, right? And you see that in our fan event that we organize, every other year called D23. We have like close to 100,000, fans coming at the event. So really the power of the fandom. And really, Disney Plus is at the center of that. We have our new CEO, Josh D'Amaro, and he mentioned that Disney Plus is really the digital centerpiece for the Disney fandom.
I think the most important thing for us has been establishing the HBO positioning, the HBO Max positioning, because ultimately we're not a service that's trying to offer something for everyone. We're trying to focus very clearly on the premium scripted storytelling that generates social conversation. First of all, on the distribution side, we've adopted a very wide range of models. So what you'll notice is that HBO Max is not only available as an app in the Southeast Asian markets, but also on JioStar in India as an integrated service, on Unext in Japan as an integrated service, and also in different bundles around the region. So we've taken a flexible approach in order to achieve the goal of sustainable subscriber growth. And then the other thing is, from a content point of view, the proposition is mainly international. That's a fact. And what that's meant is that we've had to be clear that we're competing in that space, which is a different space from my colleagues here on the panel.
Take me through the strategic logic of your APAC content mandate today. I mean, give the audience an understanding of where you're investing and why. And then I guess separately, which is sort of somewhat cheeky to ask, but if you were rebuilding it from a blank sheet in 26, what would you keep and what would you cut?
What we have learned is in APAC, I'm repeating what we all said, local content is really key. All of those APAC markets, we really need to identify what are those markets, countries, that local content will actually drive a lot more impact. And we've identified that a lot of our Asian markets can grow together if we focus on Korea, Japan, and India. What we've learned later down the road, what myself and I've learned is that the importance of local content in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia, there are so many countries in Southeast Asia. There's no one flight ticket to Southeast Asia, even if I talk about it as a one region. Thailand, Indonesia, and Philippines has been those three key markets where we believe that the local content can help really drive our business. Philippines, for me, was an interesting market because of the English fluency, receptive to like English content and Korean content. We didn't realize the appetite and the demand for the local content was that big. And we've learned a lot through licensing films and series in Philippines, and now we're ramping up on our originals as well.
Yeah, I give you two different examples of two different territories where we invested deeply, but our thesis was slightly different. So our thesis for, say, Japan, when we got in, was like we had a large Prime member base which was already existing, and
Right.
we had to deeply engage and grow that base. So you think of a very large audience base moving from traditional TV, and you think about what's going to be a spectrum of content that'll get them to engage deeply on streaming and then grow that base. India was a different thesis. It was a thesis because we launched simultaneously with the shopping business with Prime, and it was really to grow the Prime category and grow the subscription market different ways. So there you had to be very differentiated to really be a big acquisitive tool. And there, the long-form scripted programming became the base on which we built down our subscription business there.
Some of the audience is appreciating it, but Disney's really stepped up to invest quite a bit in local content over the last 6 to 12 months. Give us a sense of that, where it's investing, particularly in local entertainment.
It's been 5, 6 years. We produce 150 local originals. So our goal was really to be disciplined, right? Not going after volume, but really high quality content, and mainly, talent-driven type of content. One thing that we're also doing is content partnerships, and James mentioned that Warner has been doing content partnership. We've been doing the same thing, and it's been very valuable. We partner with TV in Japan. We partner with Hulu Japan as well, and that has been nicely complementing our offer in terms of local originals.
What has Asia taught your global organization that it may not have learned anywhere else in a positive way? And what's actually changed at the HQ as a result from your perspective?
I think one of the most important learnings has been around our global IP. So it is true that global content consumption, whether it's movies or you look at the different sectors, has been, under pressure in a lot of Asian markets. But at the same time, there is no doubt that there are very strong fan bases for global IP, Western IP. And that fan base is irrespective of how they view the program, whether it's on a streaming service or whether it's been sold or licensed to someone. And in our case, the best example is the Harry Potter fan base, the fan base around the Harry Potter movies and the books. And ultimately, that fan base is significant in this region. And it's, in fact, Japan and China are among the top Harry Potter markets globally. And I think the learning has been that you've got to put those fans first. So you have to put them in your center frame.
Right.
And that means that, when we roll out the new TV series as we are later this year, it's important, because it's going to be bringing a new generation of fans. But it's equally important that we're rolling out, the theme park in Tokyo, the studio tour, that there's another one coming in Shanghai. It's critical, and again, this is not news to to everyone, but that your fans consume that IP not only through the video but through consumer products and real life experiences. And so I think the learning has been that in a market like APAC, which is fragmented, where there might be some pressure for the consumption of global content, you've got to focus on the fan base. You've got to focus on IP that is already loved, and that's where the value is.
Min and Gaurav, you've obviously both, in your respective roles, advocated very strongly for the region. You've had to consistently do that. What has changed from your perspective in the U.S. perception of Asia as a result? And what is still today the most frequently question you get asked about Asia from the U.S. that may be hard to answer?
If I recall, when I first started, the team that builds USA was called Global Original, and we were called International Original. And what I've told them at that time is, for me, you're international. Why are you global and why are we international? And I think that actually really shifted the mind of a lot of our leaders in US and all over the world where we operate. So right now, I think one of the things that I'm most proud of my organization, and I think it really reflects our strategy, is that we have our lead of APAC, lead of EMEA, lead of LATAM, and lead of UCAN, reporting directly into our C-suite. So we know that it's really important that we treat each of these regions differently, and we have the right strategy to be able to grow these regions. And I think it's not only on the content side, partnership, marketing, comms, all of that. We are very regionalized, but also really make an effort to stay connected together.
Content is Asia's real soft power, right? And if you think about that soft power and see that how over the last few years that's sort of playing out, and the trend traditionally was that global content would traditionally come from the US, Europe, everywhere else. Now you're seeing global content come from Asia, from Korea, from Japan, from India, actually going around the world. Which doesn't mean that content doesn't, like global content is, US content is really well in Asia. But I think we're also seeing the Asian content now really traveling across the board. So I think those things are really getting a tailwind to Asian streaming overall.
Got it. You're growing a category, all of you, in a different way in terms of the premium vote category, but you're also competing for time with YouTube, with gaming, with social, with new formats such as microdramas. All of that's pulling at the same hours. Particularly, James, for you in say bigger markets that you're looking at, like Australia and Japan and some of the bigger markets in Southeast Asia. How do you guys strategize for that or build for that? You know, and is there are you just playing defense on that side? How do you tend to look at that?
Well, I think that our view is that the so-called premium segment, or the segment at the top of the pyramid that's higher income and able to spend on the entertainment they want, is always going to be there. And it's a very strong segment. And it's whether they pay for premium entertainment or premium features, there's no question that that segment is present and indeed growing as the economics of the demographics change. And I think that our view is that you've got to try to go down the pyramid on that. So you've got to figure out how to enlarge that group as much as possible. And what that means is not only doing a fantastic job with the storytelling that you're doing in that segment, but also figuring out in terms of ad tiers and other means of balancing, increasing the accessibility for people who maybe are more price sensitive, but who are still in that segment.
I think there's still a lot that premium VOD offers. I think what we offer is that sort of immersion into content, immersion into story, and with that comes a lot of the conversation, connection with your family, your friends, and I think there's a lot for us to do on that front. What we're learning as YouTube, TikTok, or microdrama comes in, all these new things coming in, what we're learning is that people want to be entertained throughout the day and not just in the evening after work where you have to chill. So we're really trying to figure out how to entertain our audiences in different parts of the world. So it's really important to make sure that we continue to be good at what we're delivering as a premium VOD, but also try to figure out what more we can do with the eyes of entertaining our audiences rather than competing with these other services or other categories. And it's, for us at Netflix, it's really important not to be distracted by the sparkling thing.
Right.
We just really need to make sure we're able to take the learning from what audiences are telling us and be able to figure out what we can do with the strength that we have.
I think it's important to understand that long-form content has, a different kind of emotional connect with customers, especially with the world building one does, with the characters that stay on, the seasons and so on. So there's a very different emotional connect. And while, of course, there's potential in all categories, but I think we should think about premium segment, like James was saying, at the deepest level of engagement with the customers and involvement.
Let's close on that. What is one thing that's happening in the region that we should be paying much more closer attention to, and the world should be paying more closer attention to?
I think the line will start to blur, a little bit. You will start to see a little bit more creators, from different platforms like YouTube coming to, platform like Netflix or Amazon or Disney. You'll start to see that blurring a little bit, which is, I think, interesting. And as James said, the rise of vertical videos and vertical content, I think is also an interesting trend.
Content for me will always be important. Thank God the content is the important. But what I'm seeing more and more important with all of these different categories of content coming in is, I feel like the importance of the partnership is like increasing, and the reason is it's the partnership helps us become more relevant and be more embedded in the lifestyle of our members.
And one of the things we're doing this year is taking a streaming IP to theatrical. Mirzapur. So I think that'd be a really good thing to see how we can actually even more broad base a very large proper IP. And I think it's a trend I think we'll probably see more as we go forward, as IPs become bigger and bigger in streaming.
Thank you. James, the last word to you.
Yeah, I think we need to keep an eye on AI video generation, because basically, due to the amount of short-form video that the models can train on in this part of the world, and also the different approaches to regulation, mean that it's going to move incredibly quickly and can't be ignored.